A detailed outlook of what has been happening throughout the day. It's also a great day here on KTN Friday briefing because of you and also the guests that I will be speaking to shortly. Now, on Tuesday, a celebrated writer, Jackson Biko, penned down an article that not only changed a promising young man's life, but one that saw Kenyans come together for a remarkable cause. Emmanuel Otieno, better known as Jadudi, has for years been battling with a brain tumor, and funds ran dry at a time that he needed to undergo a vital surgery. Well, he contacted Biko, and together with Zawadi Nyongo, a social and feminist activist, they came together and began a campaign to raise 1 million shillings for Jadudi's treatment. Now, in 28 hours, Kenyans raised not 1 but 6.1 million shillings. Well, I will be speaking to these champions of the cause, Zawadi and Biko, shortly. But for now, let's take a look at the highlights.
Hedging is a risk management strategy, and you cannot run an airline that is exposed to the volatility of its main cost input, which is in this case jet.
How did you lose 26 billion shillings? Senate begins grilling of KQ bosses. NTSA withdraws licenses of buses where students went wild with drugs. Tribalism brewing in Kenyan schools, leaders raise the red flag.
You know, we've been left alone for 17 years and then we go around 20 years without no compensation. It's kind of painful.
And 17 years on, victims of 1998 bomb blast still hoping for compensation. My name is Betty Kialo, and our sign language interpreter is William Silla. Now, the Senate today began questioning directors of the national carrier Kenya Airways, which shocked the country with its 26 billion shillings loss. The directors were today hard-pressed to explain why the board rejected an offer from a South African company to buy 4 of its old fleet that were lying idle at the airport. The directors said despite the airline making a loss of $1.6 billion through a contract for the supply of jet fuel in 2014, other airlines globally were affected under similar arrangements. Well, Patrick Amimo has the details.
The national carrier Kenya Airways recently made history when it announced a record 25.7 billion shillings loss after tax. This came against a backdrop of an ongoing investigation by the Senate on challenges facing the airline. The airline's contractual arrangement for the supply of jet fuel has been identified as one of the contributing factors for the huge loss. The airline pays $80 for a liter of jet fuel. But the directors defended the arrangement.
I've read in shock articles in some places which suggest that we've lost 15 billion shillings on hedging, which is simply not true. Over the last 5 years, we've actually made 2.7 billion shillings.
2014 for 2015, a 1.6 billion loss simply coming out of the hedging.
Even though our hedge on average is about $90, irrespective of how low the price goes down, we only pay a maximum of $20. And that's how come we are only paying 1.6 billion. You could have paid a lot more money if we did not have this structure in place.
It doesn't really make any difference whether we pay Shell or whether we pay Goldman Sachs. The fact remains that we are paying at a higher price because of the fact that we hedged, which is just, call it bad luck, call it whatever you want to call it, but the 1.6 billion remains 1.6 billion. It's a loss irrespective.
Absolutely right, Chairman. 1.6 billion in 2014-15 is what we paid Goldman Sachs, correct? The $20. However, because the price has come down in the market, instead of paying the 8 that was a hedge, we are now paying the market price. And because the market, now the relationship with Shell, because the price has come down, we actually saved 4.8 billion shillings. But the net impact, therefore, is that we have an operating saving of 4.8 and a financing cost of 1.6. So the net cash flow impact is positive 3.2 billion.
Can you just explain to us what kind of arrangement you enter into with Goldman Sachs?
You get into a contract with Goldman Sachs that basically says that we as Kenya Airways will pay $80 for fuel, irrespective of what the cost of the fuel is in the market.
If you look at the Delta accounts for the end of December, Delta made a significant hedge loss for the end of December 31st. And what Delta did, in their wisdom, because they have balance sheet cash, they bought out all their hedges because they've taken the view that going forward, the oil prices will stay at the current level.
All airlines had hedged at levels similar to us. All airlines have taken a hedging hit. I can confirm that we are not allowed by antitrust laws to disclose the exact detail of our hedge book.
Kenya Airways directors, however, found themselves in a tight spot over the board's decision to reject sale of 4 Boeing 777-200 Embraers to a South African firm that had agreed to buy the fleet at a cost of $322 million US. The aircraft are now lying idle.
The understanding of the committee is that you advertised that you wanted to lease out the aircraft that you currently have yourselves. And you wanted to lease them out, and you advertised for the same. And you got an offer, which is public knowledge, of $322 million US from a South African outfit, which you refused. You then advertised, and the aircraft, yes, you're paying for the aircraft. You then advertised again, and this time round, you got a lower offer of $200 million, I think for 2 or 4 of the aircraft. I can't remember. You can explain all that. But my issue with it is it correct, is it true to say that KQ has got aircraft that are lying idle?
We did get an offer for $322 million for this aircraft, and the book, the loan value then was about $150 million. So we were going to generate almost $200 million of additional cash flow. We identified a potential partner in the sale and leasing who happened to be a South African company, and it was in fact approved by the board. So when we went back to the market to identify somebody who was going to buy them outright, we have had offers, and currently we are finalizing with the offers, and the best offer so far is actually $185 million, and that's what we're negotiating with the best offer in the market.
You knew you were going to buy Dreamlines anyway. So why this? Please, I don't really understand it. It's not a very convincing explanation, let me say it.
The market value is affected by various factors in the market. When we went to the market earlier on the 777-200s, the 787 had not flown. And there was a lot of doubt from the wide-body community whether the 787 would ever fly. So there was a huge demand for 777-200s. This time around, when you've gone to the market, the 787 has proved to be very popular.
Would you say that it was a serious mistake in June 2013 of not accepting the offer that was given of 322?
We were going to make $180 million cash flow. We were going to spend $80 million on refurbishment. So in terms of the net impact was $100 million into the kitty. In terms of the fact that we are still paying the lender today is cash neutral, because whether we had done the lease or not, we would still be paying. Today we are paying a bank. If we had done a lease, sale and lease back, we'd be paying a lessor. So we are paying $1 million a month. The same $1 million we'll be paying to the lessor is the same $1 million we'll be paying to the bank. In fact, the lease payment would have been slightly higher.
So they've been in use up to May this year. They are now awaiting sale. They're sitting on the ground. We have used them only on charter opportunities.
Apart from posting a 25 billion shillings loss, Kenya Airways is also facing serious strategic problems in its human resource department. The plan by the airline to have a refinancing of 60 billion shillings is also facing stiff opposition. Patrick Amimo, KTN News, Parliament.
Survivors of the 1998 bombing of the U.S. Embassy in Nairobi say they were used and dumped by the United States during prosecution of suspects of the terror attack. And now, 17 years on, they say most of them have died waiting for compensation. KTN's Michelle Ngele spent the day with some of the survivors on this 17th anniversary of the deadly blast.
7th August 1998, a group of suicide bombers linked to the Al-Qaeda terror network struck Kenya, sending shockwaves across the country and across the world. The bombers drove a truck laden with explosives right into the base of the United States Embassy in Nairobi's central business district, sending the building and adjacent structures crumbling. The aftermath of the attack left more than 200 people dead, including 12 Americans, and over 4,000 others injured. Though the blast happened 17 years ago, victims of the blast are still seeking compensation. Ahead of President Obama's visit to the country last month, the victims took to the streets demanding compensation from the U.S. government. The survivors were hopeful that during his 3-day visit in the country, Obama would take notice of their demands for financial compensation. But this never came to pass. They now accuse the U.S. government of using them to convict the perpetrators of the 1998 attack and later dumping them. As has become tradition, victims and survivors of the blast gather around the August 7th Memorial Park, where they lay wreaths and conduct prayers for those who lost their lives.
We deserve the compensation. Time heals, but for the compensation, I'm sure it will do something better. I think we'll see that there are people whom are minding about us. You know, we've been left alone for 17 years and then we go around 20 years without no compensation. It's kind of painful.
I guess we deserve it because most of us, we depended on our parents. Okay, personally my dad. And it has been hard actually because I grew up not knowing my dad. I was 1 year old.
Samuel and Rachel represent thousands of victims of the 1998 bomb blast who are still seeking for compensation from the U.S. government. Many of them feel aggrieved that American victims of the bomb blast have already been compensated while they have been left out in the cold 17 years later. Michelle Ngele, KTN News, Nairobi.
The National Transport Safety Authority has withdrawn the licenses of 2 vehicles in which students from Kirinyaga and Nyeri held a drug and sex party. And as KTN's Timothy Otieno reports, the focus is now turning to the role of parents and head teachers when students are leaving the confines of their schools.
It's an incident that has left many parents tongue-tied. This bus, now impounded at the Kiangachi police post, perhaps stands as a reminder of the exposure high school students find themselves in. And the message it displays tells a story on its own. So what, we get drunk? So what, we smoke weed? A message pinned on the back of this bus. 45 students were arrested on Wednesday inside it while heading to Nairobi. They are believed to have been smoking bhang, drinking and engaging in sexual activity inside the bus. The students had closed school and were heading home. But their capture along this road in Kirinyaga is what has now caused a nationwide stir.
Sasa kuna huzuni sana na tunashindwa kama wazazi tutafanyaje.
At Buruburu Girls, the students are closing today and management here is not taking any chances. The school has adopted a mechanism that alerts parents on the exact date they are closing and when a student's parent is expected to pick them up.
The reason for letting the parents know the date we are closing the school or the date they are going for midterm is to ensure they are aware when they expect to have their daughter at home.
A text message is often sent out to parents to come pick up their children. Virginia insists that this method may go a long way in facilitating accurate monitoring of students, especially when the school term ends. Mother to a Form 4 girl at the school, Rose Njuge, says the mechanism works and hopes more schools can adopt it to avoid cases such as those witnessed in Kirinyaga.
A few days before they send us a message to come and correct our child on this time, this date at this time. Na tunaona hiyo ni mzuri because of security.
For midterm, the parent must come and pick the girl and even sign in our book that you have picked the girl.
The school management insists this is just one way of monitoring and that the broader spectrum on discipline relies on a collective effort from society as a whole.
Why should we not talk to our young students and give them some guidance of where they are supposed to head?
The National Transport and Safety Authority has withdrawn licenses of the 2 vehicles in which the 45 students held the drug and sex party. NTSA has also summoned the officials of the SACCO to explain what happened. It's an incident that has no doubt brought to the surface a lot of questions, some of which may not be answered immediately. However, what education scholars as well as parents and school management do agree on is that if something is not done soon, then we may be in the verge of losing an entire generation. Timothy Otieno, KTN News, Nairobi.
Now, a community of residents from Nairobi's Embakasi area today trooped to the office of the Nairobi governor in what they say is part of a fight to save their land from fraudsters. The Dupoto Darfur Settlement Welfare Society claims that clever conmen have positioned themselves to deny the residents billions of shillings in compensation from the standard gauge railways project. Fatma Pole reports.
This is the 168-acre piece of land in Embakasi, Nairobi, at the center of the row. But to the people of the Dupoto Darfur Settlement Welfare Society, this is more than just a piece of land. This community has lived here for 61 years, and it is the only home they know. After that, they will be moved 2 more times. Part of the community, those who could afford it, left the area to seek alternative settlements. Those who could not, about 2,000 others remained behind. The pastoralist community has had to give up their source of livelihood because they lack an adequate grazing land. Instead, they depend on relief food from the government. So they set up temporary shacks here. Temporary because after being moved thrice, they didn't know if there will be a 4th.
Watoto shule, hata shule sasa tunapeleka mbali, wengine hawasomi, wengine kanasari ndio tumejimudu hapo sisi wenyewe kujenga. Na walimu hata sisi wasasi ndio tunaajiri.
Chairman the Land Commission Dr. Sasui wamekuja mkutano kwa Ibama. Na akamwambia wananchi, ile wananchi ilikuwa naishi hapa zaidi ya watu 4,000 shamba hakuna title na ni shamba ni yenu.
The 4th time did come, and when it did, it was the news that they'll have to be moved to allow for the construction of the standard gauge railway, with a promise that they will receive a huge compensation. But before they could breathe a sigh of relief, the news of an apparent huge compensation for the standard gauge railway will introduce a new twist.
Na wao sasa wakakuja kupata vyeti miliki ya ambayo haina ukweli mahali pale, fake titles, na wakaweza kutoa. Lakini wakati tuliitwa wakati wa grant review pale NHIF na National Land Commission, hiyo ndio mara ya kwanza tuliweza kuwaona.
What they are unable to piece up is how the alleged fraudsters attain title deeds to make claims for compensation, yet they too have legit documents that prove that the land is rightfully theirs.
Ikiwa sasa railway ndio hiyo inakuja kuchukua mahali hapa, sisi tufidiwe vilivyo, ndio tuweze kuondoka mahali hapa tukienda kutafuta makao.
Sasa tukaambiwa tunataka kulipwa, tukasema ni afadhali juu sasa mtu akilipwa ataenda anunue shamba mahali ajenge na anze maisha yake. Sasa hizi ukienda tu hivyo si utahangaika, kuna pale pa kwenda.
So today they set out their army to present a petition to the county government of Nairobi. The Nairobi County government on Thursday moved to court seeking to stop the alleged fraudsters from benefiting from a 2.5 billion shillings compensation. In the case filed at the High Court in Nairobi, the city county has sued the National Land Commission, the Kenya Railways Corporation, the Chief Land Registrar and the Attorney General over the alleged fraudulent compensation plan.
Niamua kwenda kotini on your behalf kwa ajili historia ya Darfur Dupoto inajulikana. Nyinyi mmeishi hapo miaka 60 na ngapi? Na 1. Na ningewaomba vile sasa hii maneno imefika kotini, haki itaangaliwa, ukweli itajulikana, na kuna sheria na constitution itahakikisha haki ya mwananchi wa kawaida kama nyinyi.
They have been reduced to squatters in their own home, and now they've had enough. They say though they're not opposing the standard gauge railway, their only request is that when that time comes, they will be compensated so that they can move with their families and start their lives afresh elsewhere.
Fatma Pole, KTN News.
Into another worrying trend in schools, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission has raised concern over the wave of ethnicity in public schools and universities. The Commission Chairman Francis Olekaparo, who was presiding over a cohesion seminar in Mombasa, says tribalism in Kenya has reached worrying levels, sentiments which were echoed by Deputy President William Ruto.
It is a scene quite common among students in public universities, especially at the peak of campus politics, the aftermath of tribalism, which occasionally rears its ugly head during campus polls. A state of affairs that is raising concern among national leaders and National Cohesion and Integration Commission.
It is a very widespread problem. It's not localized. It's not in particular regions. It's a problem that is found everywhere. It's a major problem. That's why we want to address, together with the Parliament, together with the Ministry of Education, because at this stage we must deal with it before it gets out of hand.
At a thief on cue, Deputy President William Ruto, who was many kilometers away in Kuresoi South constituency, weighed in on the crisis of tribalism, warning that it's finding its way even to party politics. Sentiments which were echoed by a host of Jubilee legislators were accompanied the Deputy President.
We must say no to those who propagate hate in our midst. All communities, every person in Kenya is special. We must resist the temptation to be hostages of the past.
Umoja wa nchi hii inategemea sisi. Umoja wa makanisa yetu inatutegemea. Mungu hajui kabila, Mungu hajui dini.
Nominated MP Johnston Sakaja, who chairs the Joint Parliamentary Committee on National Cohesion and Equal Opportunities, says tribalism continues to thrive through the mouths of public officers who continue using vernacular languages in public offices, including public tertiary institutions.
We need to outlaw the use of vernacular in public spaces, in public offices, because in as much as the conversation might be innocent, the person who is not understanding feels excluded, and they might even think they're being gossiped or that there's a conspiracy against them.
You can find in some public institutions top management to comprise one or two communities, maybe one community 70 or 80% of the position, and they can actually conduct meetings in vernacular.
But even as the crusade to de-ethnicize the country reverberated from Kuresoi South, Kenyans are still keenly awaiting the conclusion of pending cases of leaders accused of spreading ethnic hatred. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News, Nairobi.
And now let's go to Uganda for a look at the roadmap for the ruling National Resistance Movement towards the general elections. Let's take a look.
The National Resistance Movement Party Electoral Commission finally released the roadmap that will guide the conduct of electoral activities within the Yellow Bus.
We promised the country at the beginning of our work that we are committed to deliver a free and fair primaries. You remember I said this delivery of free and fair primaries is not rocket science. People have gone to the moon, they're even going to the sun. So at least me and Dr. and Arisemera should be able to deliver.
From the 15th to the 20th of August, there will be nominations for LC1 chairpersons and special interest groups. From the 22nd of August to the 2nd of September will be campaigns for LC1 and special interest groups at the village level. On the 4th of September, there will be voting for LC1s, special interest groups and village structures. On the 7th of September, voting will head to the parishes for special interest groups and structures at the parish level. On the 10th of September, there will be voting for special interest groups and structures at the sub-county. On the 14th of September will be polling day for special interest groups and district structures. On the 15th of September, there will be nomination for MPs, district women representatives, and LC5 chairpersons. From the 9th to the 23rd of September, there will be joint campaigns for all the candidates. 25th September will be the D-Day, when the NRM will hold primaries for all the candidates. On the 30th of September, there will be primaries for the youth seats and workers' MP seats. There will also be elections for the national leaders and special interest groups. The activities will end on the 2nd of October with the delegates conference that will also elect the national leaders and the presidential flag bearer. The party's electoral commission on Wednesday released guidelines to be followed by the aspirants, including banning the use of government vehicles during the campaigns. Sabit Joseph, NBS Sunset.
Now here at KTN we like to do things differently, and tonight we have a very special showcase called the KTN Tukuza Prayer Marathon that's going to be taking place from 10:25 p.m. tonight to 5 a.m. That's, of course, tomorrow, Saturday. And I want to bring in my colleague, Anthony Ndiema, who is at our production studio where the event is taking place. Ndiema, thank you very much for joining us on Friday Briefing. Maybe you can tell us what's happening there. What can we expect? 10:25 to 5 a.m., that's a long time. Are you sure people will not sleep?
Thank you very much, Betty. On the other side of the studio, we are right here at KTN, and something amazing is just about to happen. We are actually in the next about 1 hour we'll be getting into a time of praising God and just worshiping God, and we are calling it all-night prayer marathon for Kenya. We're just taking time to pray for this nation. Many good things have happened in this country, and we want to thank God for those good things that have happened in this country. We also want to just pray for what we desire as a nation. We have plans, we have desires, so we want to pray together for this nation as we desire for the great things that are about to happen. And what we are saying is that Kenya belongs to God. We want to pray for this nation, and we want to ask the guys who are at home watching us that from 10:25 we'll be going live with the all-night prayer for Kenya. We'll be praising, quite a number of musicians already here. We'll be praising God together. We have ministers from all over this country, from Nakuru, from Nairobi. They'll be getting to pray together with us. So we want also to invite our viewers just to send in their prayer requests. Our hashtag today is God over Kenya. We are celebrating Kenya. We are praying for Kenya, and we are saying Kenya belongs to God. That's exactly what we are doing. I want to remind our viewers again that we will be starting, and we'll be live from 10:25 p.m. all the way to 5 in the morning. Back to you, Betty.
Thank you very much, Ndiema. Definitely something to look forward to tonight on KTN Home Channel from 10:25 p.m. That's, of course, right after KTN Friday Briefing. Be sure to join Ndiema and that team. Thank you very much. You touched my heart. Well, those were the sentiments by Emmanuel Otieno, better known as Jadudi. Well, in case you're hearing this name for the first time, Jadudi is a young man who was diagnosed with a brain tumor at the age of 22. His family could not afford to fund his treatment overseas. Well, he wrote to a popular writer and blogger, Jackson Biko, together with Zawadi Nyongo, who is my guest anchor tonight, and together they began an online funds drive 28 hours later after the post went up. 6.1 million shillings was in the bank. His family could not hide the joy when journalists visited his home in Kisumu. Well, here's what he and his parents had to say.
The Lord has a reason why he's still surviving. Because most of the doctors, when they see him, you mean you are still alive?
Zawadi and Biko. Biko and Zawadi have been with me all through. I just want to say thank you. And my friend, thank you so much.
Friends have come out to help. But if you have come to help, please, we still request you to assist the boy to come up.
We have Zawadi Nyong'o, who has just joined us on set, of course. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for
She
having me.
and Jackson Biko, who we will be speaking to on phone shortly, led that online campaign that has ensured that Jadudi will get his treatment. They wanted to raise 1 million, but they ended up raising 6.1 million. First of all, a very big congratulations for that.
Thank you. Congratulations goes to
Everyone,
all
because
really.
everyone just came out, and I hear people were sending 50 bob, 200.
Yeah.
Did you?
I think we need a public holiday so that all Kenyans can celebrate.
I think the president should give us a holiday
Yes.
and celebrate. But I mean, how can you describe how Kenyans just owned it and just went with it, and then 28 hours later we have 6.1 million in the bank? How can you describe that?
You know, I'm still confused, but the only thing
Yeah.
that makes sense, despite the fact that, yes, I might have the social media
Yeah.
campaign
Yeah.
strategy
Yeah.
skills, and Biko is a really good writer and
Yeah.
a blogger, I think it's love.
It's love,
At the end of the
exactly.
day,
Yeah.
it's love.
Okay.
It's God's love,
Mhm.
and it's people's love.
People's love.
Because it was Jadudi's spirit
Mhm.
that touched me
Mhm.
3 years ago,
Mhm.
and I love this stranger.
Actually, that's the thing. It's interesting that you have never met him.
No.
And Biko too has never met him.
Yeah.
But here
We're seeing him for the first time on television.
And he's crying and he's thanking you, and he his heart is really literally,
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
thanking you.
Yeah.
And we'd like to hear your sentiments at home. The hashtag is Friday Briefing. Tell us, even if you contributed, especially if you contributed, tell us, how it has been, just looking at this person you do not know, and, here you are trying to help as much as possible. You mentioned that it has been 3 years since
Mhm.
you first heard of him.
Mhm.
Then why did it take so long for this to happen?
Well, at the time he was going in for his second surgery,
Mhm.
he contacted me a few days before.
On Twitter?
On Twitter.
Okay.
And he asked me to DM him.
Mhm.
And I said, what's this about?
Mhm.
And he said, my brain tumor. I said, okay, I'm instantly
That
following
was the
you.
first time?
Yes.
Okay.
That's how we met.
Okay.
It was just after we had set up the Africa Cancer Foundation,
Mhm.
and that's how he knew me, in
With your
relation
mom.
to Africa Cancer Foundation.
Yeah.
So we started a conversation. He told me he had a recurring brain tumor
Mhm.
and was going into surgery.
Mhm.
And he said he was very hopeful that everything would be fine. And
Mhm.
sure enough, he came out of surgery and he was well.
Mhm.
Over the last 3 years, we've been in touch, not very regularly.
Mhm.
But then 2 weeks ago, he called me and said, Zawadi, I have bad news for you. And I said, well, what is it? And he said, my tumor has come back.
Mhm.
This is the 4th one. I now need to go to India again.
Mhm.
And we have exhausted all our resources.
Mhm.
We have done Harambes for the last 3 surgeries. I don't know what to do.
Mhm.
And so I said, okay, I have no money, but I know that I have friends, and you have friends who have friends.
Yes.
So it's going to be that ripple
A
effect.
ripple effect, yes, yes.
All you need to do is write your story.
Mhm.
He wasn't really able to type much,
Mhm, mhm.
but he, I said, you don't have to type, you don't have to write a good story.
Mhm.
Just write your story.
Yes,
Then
yes.
we will rewrite it and
Yes,
package it.
Yes, yes.
And I said, think about how we are going to get this out. What platform?
Yes, yes.
The next day he said, can you please ask Biko Zulu?
Mhm.
He is a fan of Biko's blog.
Yes,
Has
yes.
been reading it even when he was in India recovering from his
Wow,
surgery.
okay.
So I contacted Biko on Twitter. We've never met. And I said, we really need to help this guy. He has asked you to write his story. I sent him the draft that Jadudi had done.
Ah,
And he
so Jadudi had
instantly-
done something.
Yeah, he had documented
Wow.
pretty much like
Everything.
the steps, enough to inspire the two of us
to do something. Wow, okay.
This was, I think, Thursday last week.
Uh-huh. As late as, wow, okay.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
On Friday, Biko and I had I think it was Friday that we had a Skype conversation.
Mhm.
And he said, I'll draft something.
Mhm.
On Monday, he sent me the draft. Okay, we said, when are we launching this campaign? Tomorrow, Tuesday.
Mhm.
What time? Okay. And that's how it happened.
Wow.
And we thought, okay, let's target 1 million. We have no idea how much Jadudi needs.
Uh-huh.
The last surgery cost 3.3 million in
Okay.
India.
Yeah.
But we said, okay, fine, let's just go for 1 million.
For 1 million. Let's start from
Yeah.
the big, yeah.
Let's start with 1
yeah,
million.
Yeah. So, I mean, how was it that it turned from 1 million at some point to 2 million, 3, 4, and then 6? Like, what were you thinking? Did you ever think like it would actually even get to 1 million to start off?
I was I'm very ambitious. When it comes to fundraising, when it comes to crowdsourcing, I really believe in the power of the people.
Okay.
I really believe in the power of a story inspiring people to do something.
To do something, yeah.
So I said, personally, I think we can do 1 million in 48 hours.
Okay.
But to be safe, let's target 1 million in 1 week. Within 4 hours of tweeting and getting it trending, 1.2 million was in the account.
Wow, okay.
So we thought, okay, what are we going to do? Okay, let's see what happens in the morning when we wake up and then close the campaign tomorrow.
And you closed
overnight.
Yeah.
It was 4.1 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
by the end of the day, it was 6.1 million.
6.1 million.
Yeah.
And I remember Biko writing an article, and we will be talking to him shortly. My director can start calling him. And, you know, saying the kind of conversations you were having back and forth, like, hey, are you seeing? How was it, you know, finally having this conversation about someone who, like you mentioned, is a stranger, and this is the first time that you've never even met him. So how was it? How, you know, take me through the motions of, you know, you've gotten to 6 million. What are you thinking? What are you feeling?
I'm still going through the motions. Yeah. And I don't know how long I'll be going through the motions because it has been just a roller coaster ride. The only thing I can say is inspired, inspired, inspired.
Okay.
Love, love, love. I mean, I've been so overwhelmed in the last few days, and just have a new love for Kenya, for Kenyans, and that sentiment has been shared by so many people on social media. You know, they're proud to be Kenyan. We have so much depressing news in this country.
Every day.
And it's amazing to have good news for once, something to celebrate. And I really think it's important. I wish there was a TV station that was just committed to good news. Even if it was just one show. You know, 1 hour a day. Let's just report
of good news.
Good news.
All right.
Because that's what inspires and motivates people.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. And I understand that you have Jackson on phone. Jackson, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Hi, Betty.
Great. Nice to have you on KTN Friday Briefing. First of all, a very big congratulations to you and to Zawadi, and I think to Kenyans who, you know, took part in the drive. I mean, what are you feeling? What are your sentiments right now?
Well, it's a good feeling, eh? We didn't expect it to turn out this way. And the duty is very happy, the parents are happy, Kenyans are happy, we are happy.
Yes.
So everybody is happy. So it was a bit overwhelming yesterday. But it's a very nice feeling.
It's a great feeling.
It's inspiring. Yeah.
You know, because the thing is, we were talking earlier and you actually told me that you have not met Jadudi yet. And I'm wondering, I mean, what led you to doing such a big thing for a stranger? What is it, something that he said to you? Is it something that, you know, that came to you? How did you go about to the point that you're now helping someone who you've never seen, you know?
Well, okay, we're meeting for the first time tomorrow.
For the first time tomorrow?
Yeah, it's flying in at 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's going to be a big reunion, or a union. So I mean, he's a young guy who has gone for 3 surgeries. He's at the very last end result. And he says, look, I need help.
Yeah.
You know, kindly tell my story. It's very hard to say no, really.
Yes.
Especially because it was not going to cost me anything. I wrote the story in about 2 hours. It didn't cost me any money.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, he's a decent guy. And he has dreams. And we all have people with lost cancer, lost with cancer. So I just felt. Can you hear me?
Because, you know, I'm wondering, you know, like, maybe finally, like Zawadi said, At first you were targeting 1 million and then it went to 6.1 million. How can you describe, Kenyans coming and helping? How can you describe that? I remember on your post saying that, even if you have 50 bob, if you have 200 shillings, it will make a difference. So from your end, how was that like, seeing Kenyans coming out the way they did to help a stranger?
Yeah, when somebody called me on Tuesday at 4, and she said, look, we have 1 million. I couldn't believe it. I thought actually we'd get 1.2 million by Friday or Saturday.
Yes.
so getting 6 million is just beyond my wildest dreams.
Wow.
And I think if people, this is a testimony that people are just, people inherently are very kind. We won't stand by and watch somebody suffer.
Yeah.
That gives you a lot of faith in humanity. Yeah?
That's true. That's true. Because thank you so much for making time to just join us and share your sentiments on this particular issue that has touched, I think, so many Kenyans. Jackson Biko there speaking to us by way of phone. He is the person who, together with Zawadi, brought that issue to the fore and brought 6.1 million to our to our vocabulary. I want us to go and introduce the story.
Okay.
You remember you are our guest anchor tonight.
Yeah.
You had told me you're very nervous.
I am.
You still are? Okay, fine. So I want you to sit here and we'll continue talking about that, the great thing that Kenyans have done. But for now, no, from there. Can you see that?
Yes.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay,
I can.
great. And so you'll start by introducing yourself.
Okay.
And then you take it away and have fun with it.
Right now?
Right now.
Okay. Hi, I am Zawadi Nyongo. And now, let's take a look at other news from around the region.
A Kenyan woman by the name Zachariah Omwenga has been apprehended on suspicion of planning a trip to war-torn Somalia to become an Al-Shabaab bride. The woman and her friend Halisi Abdi Hussein were arraigned in a Garissa court before Magistrate Margaret Washira. Her companion was allegedly meant to facilitate her entry and travel to her desired destination in Somalia. The two shall be held in police custody for the next 20 days as investigations continue.
Our country is safe.
In Machakos, military officers, family and friends paid their last respects to fallen Major General Francis Kimeu Ng'ethe at his Kiumbi home in Machakos County. The late Major General, who passed on late last month, will be remembered for being a key figure in the formulation and execution of Operation Linda Inti, which was the Kenya Defense Force war against Al-Shabaab. Elsewhere, the Cabinet Secretary for Health, James Masharia, has confirmed that the ongoing polio immunization campaign has hit a 6 million children target. The campaign that targeted children under the age of 5 has achieved the target despite claims from the Catholic Church that the vaccine was not safe. The Cabinet Secretary has also revealed that 50% of children in the country received the immunization in the first 2 days.
Kuna ritani zingine zinakuja na nafikiri tukimaliza hiyo hesabu yote tutakuwa tumezidi ile kiwango cha 6 million.
Also, 14 Kenyan sailors are feared to be stranded in the Indian Ocean after the vessel they were in ran ashore off the coast of Somali state of Puntland. The sailors are reported to have been part of a 34-member crew on board the vessel that is said to have developed mechanical problems and ran aground while approaching Hoibo. It was on its way to Mombasa from Yemen. And finally, Chief Francis Kariuki of Lanet Umoja in Nakuru North has graduated with a degree in counseling psychology. Fondly known as the Tweeting Chief, Kariuki is known for using Twitter for everything from tracking down missing sheep to stopping home invasions. He is also the winner of the annual Social Media Awards and the Giraffe Heroes Awards.
Glad you are keeping it KTN News. Now it's time for us to take a look at business. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. Kenya has suspended the multi-million shilling marketing communication deal signed with giant American media house CNN over remarks that Kenya was a terror hotbed. The Kenya Tourism Board says the move was informed by the backlash from Kenyans angered by the misrepresentation on the country's security status. Phil Keitani has more.
Over the last few years, Kenya's image has taken a beating owing to the barrage of negative news in the global arena. The country has been battling a spiraling security crisis that has had a knock-on effect on the performance of the tourism sector. But while previously, Kenya would have sat back and watched its image as it was bashed, the country is taking a different approach. Kenya is now more keen and bold on how its image is reflected in the outside world. And now, CNN becomes a victim of this vigilant stand.
So Kenya is at a crossroads.
Late last month, CNN caused a storm after it showed a graphic that described Kenya as a hotbed of terror, just days before President Barack Obama was to visit Kenya for the Global Entrepreneurship Conference. The remark was in reference to spate of terror attacks that have rocked Kenya since 2013, climaxing with the killing of nearly 150 Garissa University students in April. Two guests invited on the CNN show to discuss security matters declared that Kenya, where less than 1,000 people have been killed in terror attacks, was more dangerous than Afghanistan and Iraq. Incidentally, last year, about 8,000 civilians were killed in fighting and terror attacks in Afghanistan, while sectarian violence in Iraq claimed more than 15,000 lives. The terror hotbed reference touched off a nationalistic fever, with Kenyans taking to the social media to mock or rebuke the American television network.
Kenya is a hotbed of vibrant culture, spectacular natural beauty, a wonderful people with infinite possibility.
Under the deal previously made public by the Tourism Secretary Phyllis Kandie, Kenya was to engage CNN to run a one-year campaign targeting the US, Europe, Asia and Africa. The future of the campaign remains unknown, as Kenyan Tourism Board is still working with government to find a solution. This is the first time the government is taking such a bold move in its quest to protect its image. Philip Keitan, KTN Business.
The Kenya Revenue Authority today hosted a regional meeting with revenue authorities from the 5 member states of the East African Community to discuss implementation of the community's single customs territory projects. During the meeting, the taxman noted that over the last 22 months, the region has made concrete steps towards reducing the cost of doing business in the region by eliminating non-tariff barriers, with transit times for goods in the region reduced by more than 75%.
Goods that, for example, used to take 18 days to Kampala from Mombasa now take an average of 6 days. And the cost also of transacting with customs has also significantly reduced.
Before we were taking 18 days, the trader was taking 18 days to clear goods from Mombasa to Kampala, and it's now on an average of 4 to 6 days. That's significant reduction in the cost of doing business.
We are experiencing the same experience like Kenya, because we are the entry point for most of these imported goods through Dar es Salaam port, and we are seeing a tremendous reduction time from Dar es Salaam up to the cross border of Rusumo, and the same at Kabanga when you are going through Burundi.
But specifically for Rwanda, if you look at the World Bank doing business indicators, Rwanda is ranking 3rd in Africa after Mauritius and South Africa. But one indicator that we are struggling to meet and perform very well has been trading across borders. And for very two obvious reasons. One is the time that it takes to carry our goods from the ports, that's Mombasa and Dar es Salaam. And number two, that the cost that is involved.
But the foundation of the whole integration is the customs union, and the SCT is the deepening vehicle. It is the deepening vehicle for the integration process, for the realization of a fully functioning customs union.
And that is from the East African member states. Kenya Aviation Workers Union has issued a 7-day strike notice to the management of the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. The strike is likely to paralyze air traffic control services, learning at the East Africa School of Aviation and other port activities. The union alleges that KCAA had refused to sign a negotiated and concluded collective bargaining agreement on 1.5 months ago. Now, the agreement would have seen the workers get 10% salary increase and also improve travel and house allowances. The union is now warning travelers to use alternative routes due to expected disruptions in air services.
Our members will be withdrawing their services throughout the country, and the effect of that is that all airports in Kenya will not be able to run normally. We take this opportunity to advise airlines, travelers, individual passengers and shippers to consider alternative arrangements for their business. And we are taking this opportunity also to condemn the conduct of Kenya Civil Aviation Management. We feel they are acting with impunity. They have no respect for the rights of workers. We do not understand yet why a responsible employer would stay for close to 1.5 months since we concluded negotiations, and they still do not want us to sign that collective bargaining agreement.
And so the markets closed today at about 3 p.m. and among the biggest gainers was Equity Bank. Let's take a look at how the Kenya shilling did perform today and also the other listed companies. And that's it for KTN Business. My name is Joy Doreen Bira, but for more news, do log on to our website, ktnnews.com or standardmedia.co.ke. More news is coming up with Betty Callow, as well as Mind Your Language, so don't go too far. And welcome back to KTN Friday Briefing. Willis, the word master, always shocking us with those difficult pronunciations like Pusadem, not Pusadem, but pseudonym. I think you like that a lot.
I loved all of them.
Yeah. All right, so we're back with Zawadi, and I want her to take us to the sporting action. Take it away.
For example, the Kenya national women's volleyball team is promising to better its performance in this year's World Cup in Japan later this month. Malkia strikers who are in camp at the Kasarani Gymnasium hope their Grand Prix promotion will give them a boost at the World Cup. Robinson Okenye paid them a visit and files this story.
The national women's volleyball team Malkia strikers have enjoyed huge success this year in Africa and around the world. The African Volleyball Queens successfully won a 9th Africa Nations Championship Cup in Nairobi after going through the whole tournament without dropping a single set. The local-based stars combined with the brilliance of European-based stalwarts to earn Kenya's biggest achievement yet, a promotion to Volleyball Grand Prix Group 2. This was after impressive performances in Mexico and Japan. After going into the history books, now comes another challenge for Malkia strikers, the World Cup. Previous appearances haven't favored the African Queens as Kenya has failed to make it to the top 10 places, but this year Kenya feels it has what it takes to battle international heavyweights.
Itategemea katika zile mechi za kwanza vile tutacheza na haswa mazoezi ambayo tutafanya kule Japan ya wiki moja na mechi kadhaa za kirafiki ambayo tutacheza itatuonesha ile mwelekeo ambao tunachukua, lakini niko na imani na wachezaji na wale wakae tayari, manake pia wakilegea kidogo tunaweza kusikia tumerudi hivi kombe.
Buoyed by their Grand Prix success, coach David Lugao believes his charges are now focused on World Cup, despite earlier reports that indicated some of the players favored going to All Africa Games in Congo Brazzaville.
Hiyo mvutano ilikuwa ni watu wa media, wachezaji wenyewe walikuwa wanajua mahali wanaenda, na sasa kila kitu imeamuliwa. Wachezaji wanaenda kule Japan, timu ambayo ilikuwa na kule Grand Prix, na timu nyingine chipukizi inaelekea kule All African Games. Mvutano kwangu mimi sikuona kama kuna mvutano. Nafikiria ilikuwa tu maelewano kidogo, lakini vile iliangaziwa ukafikiria kwamba kuna mvutano.
Kenya has been placed in a tough first-round pool alongside host Japan, Russia, Cuba, Argentina and Dominican Republic.
The World Cup may be a daunting task, but for the Kenya national women's volleyball team, this is like any other challenge to them. And this year in Japan, they are hoping to showcase to the world why they are the African queens of volleyball. Robinson Okenye, KTN Sports.
Robinson having too much fun there. Now 48 drivers will take part in the Machakos National Rally Championship that will be flagged off tomorrow at the KCB Machakos branch. Quinton Michelle, who drives a Skoda Fabia S2000, is seeded to ramp off first in a race that is expected to be a make or break for many top drivers. Jasprit Chater still leads the pack with 2 rounds to go, followed by the veteran Ian Duncan, who will be flagged off the second. The flying Finn Tapio Lokanen is seeking for a 3rd win of the Kenya National Rally Championship after winning the Eldoret leg last month. Defending champion winner Baldev Shagar is still in the championship and will be looking to showcase his driving prowess in Machakos. And then sadly we have to come to an end, KTN Friday briefing. But before then, let's take a look at some of the opinions and, you know, the feedback that you of course you texted and tweeted us in regard to our big question tonight. And we were asking you, who should take responsibility for students' safety after they leave the school compound? Who should take responsibility for students once they leave the school compounds? Let me just sample 1 or 2 messages here. And Geoffrey says parents must create time to coordinate with teachers and transporters to ensure students' safety from school. Someone here says, Cleo the Love Child, says after school safety of students rests with state and the parents. Nice Yuna says, I know of a school where parents pick their kids and have to sign once they do that. No room for friends picking up the kids. Weke Boy says, it's obvious the parents and the students themselves, since they are of sound mind, they should be able to take responsibility for themselves. Very many tweets and messages coming in regards to our big question tonight. Thank you very, very much. And of course, a very warm thank you for, for all the comments on Twitter and our text messaging service. Thank you very much for that.
Enroll with us today in any of our branches countrywide. Thika School of Medical and Health Sciences, nurturing professional excellence.
Right, and as I mentioned, it's time to end this, and we end it on a high note, and we still have Zawadi Nyongo in studio. Thank you very much for coming. I think you had a lot of fun. You were very nervous at first, but
my heart is still racing.
Your heart is still racing. But so many people saying a big congratulations to you. You've really shown us a side of Kenyans that probably most of us have not seen in some time. Maybe a last parting shot. Tomorrow you will be meeting Jadudi for the first time. What are you expecting,
Tears.
Tears, I know.
I think it's going to be quite a special moment.
All right.
To Kenyans, I just want to say thank you for the inspiration, for supporting. Let's keep that Ubuntu culture alive.
Exactly.
I am because we are.
Because we are.
And as individuals, let's all take the responsibility to know our own status.
Okay.
So the Africa Cancer Foundation does screening.
Okay.
But there are screenings in different hospitals at different times.
Yeah.
October is coming up, you know, breast cancer month.
Yeah.
And you want to keep up with this story? You're inspired by Jadudi? Let's simama, not Jadudi now.
All right.
And stay tuned via AfriCF on Twitter or the African Cancer Foundation on Facebook.
All right.
Yeah.
And or your Twitter handle.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Or Biko Zulu.
Or Biko Zulu.
Yeah.